Hey, good morning, it's Tiffany. I hope everybody's having a fabulous morning this morning. So I wanted to shoot this publicly. I know I'm not in the Thrive Clean Eating group. I do realize that. I will share this to the group, but hopefully you can catch it here live. And I want to talk about a few things to ponder. Conspiracy theories always intrigued me, right? And it's just one of those things. And so I'm reading this book by Dr. Hyman, which is all based on research and studies and his practice. Some of these things I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So I want to read you a little bit of this and then we'll talk about it. All right? So he's saying consequences of our food policy. First of all, what is our food policy? Our government, along with the FDA and the USDA and the American Heart Association, the AHA, they kind of have a policy on what you should and shouldn't be eating. And so in 2015, we had updated US dietary guidelines, and the guidelines still said you can have sugar and you can have like this big group of bread. But based on our food policy here in the US, these are some of the consequences. And when you always think about things like, why should I change? Why would that be better for me? I always say, well, what's the consequence of not doing it? And a lot of the women I work with are like, well, then I end up dead, or I end up with, extreme rheumatoid arthritis, or I end up with my hands all curled up, or I end up not being able to walk, right? So what is the extreme consequence? So if you think about consequences of our food policy in the US, there's some bullet points here. So he's saying 50% of all Americans are diagnosed with a chronic disease, right? And they're driven by food. Food-driven chronic diseases are affecting half of America. So you're like, what is chronic disease? Chronic disease can be arthritis. Chronic disease is MS, IBS, colitis, Crohn's, the list goes on and on. But a chronic disease is something that you live with for your rest of your life is what they tell you. And they normally hand you a prescription for a pain pill or something else, or an antihistamine or something that you're expected to take for the rest of your life. So 50% of America has a chronic disease because of food that they're consuming, things that they're putting in their body. All right, the next consequence of our food policy, escalating federal debt due mostly to the fiscal burden of chronic disease on Medicaid and Medicare. So I'm gonna post about this later, but this is crazy. I have it highlighted, but basically our federal debt is growing because of the amount of money we are spending for people on Medicaid and Medicare that have chronic illnesses. And I'll find the numbers later, but the numbers are ridiculous. Ridiculous. It was like 3-point-something trillion in 2016 we spent as a country, taxpayer money, to take care of people with chronic diseases. And now we just found out 50% of those is because of food. All right, so what if we spent that money instead on giving them organic food or changing the way that WIC or food stamps worked so that they were getting more healthy food? That would be kind of cool, right? All right, the next thing, our achievement gap. What is our achievement gap? Our achievement gap is our students, our population of students, our children, right, lagging in global economy of an achievement due to childhood obesity and food-related illnesses that are driving poor school performance, resulting in diminished global economic competitiveness. It's kind of sad. Makes me really want to pack a rainbow for my kids in their school lunch, right? To give them the upper hand. And I can tell you my kids went to school with rainbow carrots today, with strawberries, sun butter, some rice cakes, apples, cuties. So let's see, we've got red, we've got green apples, we had orange cuties, I had rainbow carrots, which were purple in their lunch, sun butter and rice cakes, yes, is brown and white. And then they had veggie straws. Again, those are not completely healthy, but they're better than chips. And packing that rainbow, right? All right, the next thing, consequences of our food policy. National security threat due to lack of fitness from our military recruits. How many of you believe that? That because of our poor food, our military, some of our military is not up to perform, or our recruits coming in are not at their optimal fitness level because of the diet that they've been growing up and eating, right? This one is crazy too. Environmental degradation and climate change from the chemicals in our agriculture and concentrated animal feeding operations. So they're called feedlots. If you're not familiar with a feedlot and you've not driven through like the plains of Nebraska or southern Illinois or any of that stuff, basically they're big concrete pads with a shed on top, and they shove thousands of cows or thousands of pigs onto this concrete, and then the pigs and the cows are eating garbage to begin with. They're not eating grass because they're not on the grass. They're not eating, you know, the natural things that they would be eating. But on top of that, they're standing in their crap, they're standing in their stools, they're standing in their urine, so they need to have antibiotics, and we're emitting additional gases because of that into our ozone. So it's worse than the emission of cars. The amount of our agriculture emissions is much worse than car emissions. So you might as well keep driving and stop eating beef. Now, stop eating commercially raised beef. If it's grass-fed, there's not those emission problems. All right, the next one. This is the one that threw me. I actually have it highlighted on the page because I was like, holy goodness. And this is where the conspiracy theorist myself was like, ooh, I wonder if there's a documentary. I wonder if there's a movie about this. All right. Poverty, violence, and social injustices due to effects of poor diet on behavior. And a lot of you are like, what does my diet have to do with my behavior? And what does my diet have to do with me living in poverty, being more violent, or having social injustices done to me or me doing them to somebody else? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we know, and let's not completely go conspiracy theory here. But your diet affects your behavior because it affects your mind. And if you've got a leaky gut, you have a leaky brain. If you have a leaky brain, you're more apt to have headaches and be grouchier or tend to like fly off the handle. You're more apt to have depression issues. You're more apt to get angry easier. You're more apt to become a hermit. I mean, so not getting what you need in vitamins and minerals and nutrients and all of that stuff into your body affects your outer being, and it affects your mindset. It affects the way that you behave in public. It affects all of that stuff. Now, the sad thing is that if we go back to the first few bullet points, if you're on food stamps or WIC, you're being allowed to, first of all, we spend about $20 million a year for people on food stamps. $7 million of that is spent on sugar. Sugar. Sugar is a drug. Sugar is addictive. Sugar causes kids to have emotional breakdowns. It causes outrages. It causes a bunch of stuff. Okay? So if you're addicted to sugar, you're obese, so you probably don't feel good. You've got pain in your joints. You've got knees that hurt. You've got all this stuff that's contributing to you not being able to get better. Can contribute to your poverty if you're unable to work a job because you don't feel well enough to go work a job. It can contribute to you feeling like there's a social injustice because you, who may be doing everything that you can, and I can tell you, as a child growing up on food stamps, my mom did everything she could to make sure that we got to where we wanted to be. She would, you know, go and work third shift just to make sure we were safe and that we had money coming in. But the thing is, you're still kind of confined to the kind of food and what you can afford. So it's not like you can go out and you could go out and use food stamps at a farmer's market. Logan Square in Chicago is great about doing that. You could go out and use WIC at farmer's markets, but it costs more. So if you're trying to feed a family of 3, a family of 4, a family of 5, you're gonna go and buy cheaper food because you believe that you can get more of it. But in reality, you're potentially harming the health of your children and your own health, which is in not having the energy. So it becomes this big circle, the energy to go out and change your life and to change something different. So the one thing that you can change, and I think Aldi is doing a really good job of this now, is they're offering organic foods, right? And there's other places that do that. Like, I love the farmer's market where you can go in if you're on food stamps or WIC, and you can get cheese, and you can get, not that I want you to go out and buy a bunch of dairy, and you can get grass-fed beef, and you could go get vegetables. The other thing is, plant a garden. Oh my gosh, get some pots, throw some dirt in it if you don't have a yard. Plant some vegetables this year. Some of them will even grow in the house. We have mustard greens growing upstairs. So there's a lot that you can do to change your environment. But if you think about some of those, the cause of our dietary food policies not being necessarily up to par, not being where they need to be to have a human, to have optimal health, to be better than normal, because nobody wants to be normal, right? To have a life where they don't have to worry about hereditary diseases. What if you knew that if you just ate a little bit differently, you would never develop high blood pressure like your parents? What if you knew, good morning Janelle, that you would never develop type 2 diabetes, just because you ate differently than what everybody else was doing and you weren't normal. What if you knew that, yeah, my mom had breast cancer or my dad had prostate cancer, but because I eat differently, I never have to worry about that, ever. And that was your choice. And if you've ever been through Landmark, they say choose chocolate or vanilla. There is no swirl. There is no, I'm gonna eat junk and I'm gonna choose to be normal and eat everything that everybody else is eating normal. There's not that difference. You have to choose one way or the other. And if you choose real whole foods, I know I'm on my soapbox. Janelle's like giving me a thumbs up. But if you choose real whole foods, those hereditary diseases, you never have to have them ever in your life because your body will be like so healthy, it just won't trigger the genes. It just won't happen. Now, if you're somebody that's like, Tiffany, I already got type 2 diabetes. I'm already obese. I already got high blood pressure and I'm on medication and I can't get it to change. I can tell you that you can get it to change. It's not gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna happen in a week. You can't just start taking beets and your blood pressure is gonna like drop to the bottom. It's gonna take 12 to 14 months. Your body has to regrow itself from the inside. And for those of you that say, oh, I have a cheat day every so often, great, go have your cheat day, but then get right back on the wagon and don't screw it up for too long. Just don't do it. If you're somebody that's already had cancer and you're living in remission, hallelujah, that's awesome. You should be eating more plants than anybody else and you should never have a cheat day. You should never go back to that sugar, that drug, because it's just gonna regrow the cancer cells. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn. There's a lot of documentaries, that's a lot. But this book, this food book for 20 bucks is amazingly eye-opening. I'm gonna take it on the plane when I fly to San Antonio this week and probably finish the rest of it. I just read last night the whole chapter on grass-fed beef, and oh my goodness, grass-fed is the way to go. There's no denying that. No more commercial drugs or commercial beef, especially because they're emitting all these gases. I know what they eat. I grew up not far from one of those big feedlots. I've seen what they feed those cows and pigs. It's crazy. So I know I titled this Things to Ponder. And if you are a conspiracy theorist or you get excited about some of that stuff, then you should really ponder some of this stuff and you should join us. We've got movements all over the country. Janelle, who's on here, runs Wellness Rising, which is a movement to create wellness within communities. I run a whole group about eating to thrive, because if you're not thriving, you can't go out and live your passion. You can't do what God called you to do if you can't physically feel well enough to go do it. You just can't. There is so many, there's a thing called KNEW, K-N-E-W, and it's another movement that's being ran by James Maskell and the integrated functional medicine doctors traveling the US this year. You can get tickets. There's a lot of this stuff. Now, if you're like, okay, I need to know where to start, help me out, right? If you're in Chicago, awesome. Let's meet. Let's figure this out. Let's get you started, because there's things that you can, and farmers market season is coming. I actually have information for a CSA that's reasonable, organic, and local for the Northwest Burbs. So if you need CSA information, hit CSA in the comments. I'll get you that information. All right, so San Antonio. I know this is probably backwards, but San Antonio this Saturday. I will be in San Antonio. Get a hold of me. Come on the 24th to the launch of Thrive Clean, and then let's set up some time. I'm in San Antonio till like Monday night, so we can even meet Monday if you just need to have like a come to Jesus talk. I hate to call it that, but it's like a come to green vegetable talk. Let's get back to the kale, right? It's not gonna kill you. Let's get you where you need to be. Summer is coming. It is coming, and you have to feel like you're ready to get out there and get your vitamin D. The other thing is April 7th and 8th, largest gluten-free food allergy expo in the US, without a doubt. It's almost, I saw yesterday in the press releases, they were calling it the world's largest, and it really might be. But it's right here in Chicago. April 7th and 8th, and I already had people messaging me. I already have a house full of people. I've got other people that I know coming up from Mississippi. Yes, they are driving up from Mississippi, not Mississippi, Illinois, but Mississippi, the state, because this is where they want to go. I've got coupon codes. I've got $5 off at the door coupons. I've got all kinds of stuff for the Schaumburg Expo. If you want to go, let me know. I'll get that stuff to you. Denver. This is the first year I'm flying to Denver. It's April 21st and 22nd. Again, Gluten Free Marketing Group is doing an expo in Denver. So, if If you want to have a great time, or you're just interested, or anything else, you could fly to Denver, be a great vacation. If you're in that area, drive over for the weekend. It's from 10 to 3. It's amazing. And I'll be speaking in Denver on 3 foods to heal the gut. And we're doing some pop-up sales, which more news to come on that. And then Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, I'm driving to. Columbus is like a 6.5, 7 hour drive because there is a time change. And it's a 2-day event sponsored by Gluten Free and More Magazine and Enjoy Life Foods. Columbus, Ohio, I'm doing a talk on the 5 steps to heal inflammation. If you've never seen that, it's truly amazing. And then that's on Saturday. On Sunday, I'm going to show you how to make 3 foods on a demo stage that you can make in your own kitchen that start to heal the gut. Because in order for you to get rid of that leaky brain, you got to fix the leaky gut. It's a step process. You got to start one place, and you got to start in the gut. All right, so that's what's coming up just in the month of April. So we've got March event in San Antonio, Chicago, Denver, Columbus. And the year just goes forward. So if you go to our website, gfmomcertified.com, go to upcoming, there's our tour. We're all over the U.S. this year. I'd love to even go international. So if you've got something you want me to do internationally, let's talk. I'll put you in touch with my people. But it is up to you. You've got to not be the consequence. You've got to be the person that says, today I choose not to be normal. Today I choose to never be normal again in my life. Because normal did all of this stuff. And if you look at your family and you look at the places that your grandparents went, you look at the places where your parents are, you look at the things and the diseases that your siblings have, you don't have to be that. I'm going to give you a great example right now. I've not asked permission to do this, but I'm going to give it to you anyway, and I'll apologize later, right? So my husband, in his mind, had already committed to, I'm going to die of the big 3. And a lot of you are like, what are the big 3? Hypertension, cholesterol, sugar, right? Big 3. They'd killed his grandmas. He'd had grandma with an amputated toes and foot. They were on both sides of his family. He just would already in his head said, I'm going to die of the big 3, right? The day we found out I was pregnant with our first daughter is the day that his dad died from a stroke. Scary, horrific day. His dad died from the big 3. And so Will had already conceded and basically, said, that's it. I'm diagnosed with these things. I know I'm going to be diagnosed. He was on prescription medication for high blood pressure. He was on prescription meds for type 2 diabetes. He was on meds for cholesterol. He was on these meds for, let's see, Frankie's 6 for the first 5 years of her life and before that, right? And if you ever knew Mr. Will, or you've ever met my husband before the last probably 4 months, he's a big guy. He's like 6'2", and he looked like a linebacker. People would always say, did you play football? He would say yes, but he never told you he wasn't the linebacker in football. He was not a linebacker in high school. He was not a linebacker in college. He just always said, yeah, I played football, and it excused the way that he looked because in his head, he was like, I got these big 3, and these big 3 are going to get me. Well, I have to tell you that for whatever reason, he's been doing some personal mindset stuff. He says, I finally decided to listen to my wife after 7 years. He's watched me heal myself twice from colon recessions. Yes, I've had parts of my colon out 2 times now. He's watched me heal our daughter Liliana from Crohn's disease. She never had to go on Humira. She never had to go on any antibiotics or any of that steroids, none of it. And he finally said last year, it was in the fall, all right, I'm going to try this. But he didn't tell anybody. He just started eating, not eating out. He was saving money. He started eating the same foods we were eating at home. And it's crazy because it's always here. There's always vegetables. If you guys look, there's always smoothies. I had a beet smoothie this morning with strawberries. There's always this stuff in our house. Now, what Will is not telling people, because he went from a 42 plus waist, okay? 52 plus jacket. So we're talking big, and if you know men's clothing sizes, those are football sizes. He's in a 34 in jeans, and now they're even starting to get loose. And I'm like, you might want to go dry the jeans so they don't fall off, or you might want to go look for a different style. It's not about weight loss for him. What is really cool is he's off all of his medication. The only thing he takes every morning now is multivitamins, some vitamin B, a CoQ10, vitamin D, and omega. My husband has had both his knees replaced, basically, and he's had an Achilles tendon repaired. None of that give him any issue. No pain. None of it. So when I talk about saying you don't have to say that these are going to get me, you can choose today a different choice. If you chose chocolate originally and that included breakfast cereal and protein shakes and all this pre-made food and canned Spam and whatever else, and today you're like, I'm choosing vanilla. I'm gonna go buy me some kale, I'm gonna get some spinach, I'm gonna get some pineapple, I'm gonna get whatever, grass-fed beef, I'm gonna get grass-fed chickens, and I'm choosing this other option. You give your body time and it will rebuild itself and you will be a new person. And people will say, what are you doing? You look amazing. And that's what Miss Regina is like. People are like coming on Saturday the 24th for us to launch Thrive Clean together because a year ago, I was in Austin. She came to a demo and she said, I have celiac disease. I don't know what to do. And I said, I can help you. And she sat through my demo and then I called her because I do like to do that. I call people that show up at events that I'm speaking at if they give me their phone number and I just thank them. I'm very grateful for people to take an hour out of their day and just sit and listen to a story. And she, within 3 months, you know, she felt better. Her celiac was under control. Within the last year, she's probably lost 20 pounds. It's not always about the weight loss, but she's lost some weight. And she came to me last summer, right before our house flooded. It was so funny. So she comes in June and she's like, all right, I've been doing this for 4 months. My women at church need this. And I said, what do you mean they need this? And she started naming off people and she started naming off, they got this disease and they got that disease. And she says, I know that we can help them. Can you help me make this happen in my church? And I was like, yeah, let's make it happen. And then our house flooded and I was displaced. And I was like, you got to give me some time. But you know what? The time is now. We're going to Texas. Good morning, Janie. And we are making it happen. And we've got a whole group of people coming on Saturday to learn how to eat better. Will they sign up for Thrive Clean? I don't know. But are they going to walk away with value and things that they can do in their house? Absolutely, because that's what it's about. So I don't want to keep you. I know I'm like on my soapbox today and I'm preaching, but have an amazing day. Choose a different flavor. Tell the rest of your heritage and your disease heritage, not the people heritage, but the disease heritage. So long, see you later. I don't want you, and I'm not going to have that, and you don't have to. It's that simple. Choose again. Choose something better. Choose a different choice. Bye, guys. Don't let the consequences get you.